And welcome to today's lesson. Today we'll be talking about grown up or blown up, episode 210. So the question that comes out is, are you a grown up? Well, I'm assuming that's a yes. You are grown up. You're over 21. You've grown up to your full size. So you would be considered when someone looks at you that you are a grown up. But now, have you actually grown up within yourself? Okay. See, most of us are suffering from not having grown up within our own framework. Unfortunately, there's so many things that are going on right now. It is forcing us to grow up within ourselves or actually get worse. And right now, this is the real reality today. You see, we're in the midst of a new world design that has totally discombobulated almost all of us in some way. Now, you would have to be hiding under a rock to not see that we're in what I would call a traumatic event. Now, traumatic events such as this has lasted, well, we're going into 2 years, but it actually has been longer than that. It's probably longer than 2 years because it has been built up. So now, in this new reality, if you still haven't dealt with the things that has not allowed you to grow up within yourselves, then what we're going to ask is, have you dealt with the traumatic events in your childhood? If you haven't, and placed in this new environment, this is going to make this even expand even more because we are now in a discombobulated environment that's always leaving us constantly off balance. So if you see my news show today, you see I talk about the headlines of these things that are actually traumatic events that are affecting us. But now we're talking about these traumatic events in your childhood. So if you haven't, okay, so these traumatic events cause trauma. Trauma are thoughts. Everybody goes through some type of trauma, traumatic events. There's a difference between the traumatic events, which is what the actual event that happened, and the trauma that is left over. It's like the collateral damage of an explosion of some kind. So this causing the trauma of the mind is called what's called suffering from CPTSD. I've brought this up many times on the show, and I'm always going to bring it back because CPTS means complex, meaning that each one of us are completely complex. Now, you've heard of PTSD, which most people equate it to someone who's been in battle. And so the events cause PTSD. But what's said now is it's complex because each person is complex. That's why someone who has PTSD, each person, no one suffers it the same. It is different for each one of our brave soldiers that have risked their lives and come back under these circumstances. So complex, post meaning like afterwards, what happened after that traumatic event. Okay, post-traumatic. We're going to talk about these traumatic events, which is causing a stress. So the trauma that in the mind is causing what's stress. And now it is now named a disorder. It is now named that there is disorder. Now, there's many symptoms, all right? All right, there's symptoms to this. There's many of them. And it's because we're all complex. All right, so these are just going to be some general ones here that I want to see if we can trigger you, so to speak, to understand a little bit more about what it means. So one could be you feel abandoned. You're always feeling abandoned. When you're in a room full of people, you feel even more alone, almost than when you're alone, feeling alone. So the feeling abandoned is very hard to describe for anybody. This is why, a lot of people who are with the CPTSD, and also who suffer the PTSD, they spend a lot of time alone because they don't want to face, first of all, themselves, and then also this thing that goes on in their mind. Number two, struggling with being present. And this goes back to almost feeling abandoned in the sense that you're not present. So you're in a room with a bunch of people, family, whatever, and you feel abandoned within that framework of just being in a crowd. So this is a struggling with being present. So that maybe when you go home, you wish you was back there. And when you're in a crowd, you wish you was home alone. So you can't, it discombobulates these things. And through the thoughts, the complex thoughts that everyone goes through, see, number three, your thoughts feel like deep wounds. All right? Deep wounds in the sense that they're painful. But also another expression that I say, they're like weight. Okay, some weights are light. Some aren't. Some things become and they get, either the wound gets deeper or the weight gets larger. And so it literally takes up all this presence in your mind so that you cannot be present. And it ends up at number 4, making you feel numb. So that you're just absolutely numb. You might be, this is where you'll start to do things like number 5, live in a fantasy world of, let's just call it, of make-believe. So you might be into video games. You might be into some type of drugs. You might be into porn. You might be into one-night stands. You know, the list goes on. You might be in overwork. You have 3 or 4 jobs. Okay? You're living in a fantasy world so that you're feeling numb and you just don't want to feel that. So you begin to live into a fantasy world of make-believe. This is a dangerous time in our world because now everything is, it's about non-reality. It's about going into a make-believe world. It's about having an avatar. It's about social media. It's about anything that can disconnect you from who you really are. And that's the real reality right now, is a fantasy world of make-believe. That's what's going on right now. This is one of the reasons why Mother is here, to give her wisdom. Because we have to get out of the fantasy. We're in a new reality. So now these things I just said, they're only a few of the possible suggestions of how to describe CPTSD. Now, how do you get out of this, or how do you begin? Where do you start? How do you even start? If you've been doing this, if you're 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, even 80 years old, how do you get out of this numbness, the deep wounds that you feel? Okay? The abandonment. How do you get out of this? Well, the first thing is being honest with yourself. Right here, right now, begins the healing. I have damage. I am damaged. I'm willing now to, as Mother says in her wisdom, face it head on now. This is very important. By being honest. Maybe this is the first time you've ever been honest. You've been maybe hiding from yourself, but trust me, people know that, all right? If you're around honest people, they're going to be the ones who really tell you. Now, if you've been around some honest people and you rejected them because you got defensive, maybe you need to find that honest person that you knew also. And it goes down to that expression, you can lie to me now, but don't lie to yourself. You can lie to me, but don't lie to yourself. So one of the first things about this is how to calm down, take a deep breath when you're feeling anxious, calm down, and stop being defensive. When you calm down, you can look at yourself. You can say, well, I'm here to be honest. And one of the things about it, once you understand that you are defensive, it will help you calm down. All right. So one of the things also is when you get into being honest with yourself, it is going to be confrontational. Because when you start going into the trauma and understanding what actually has stopped you, it will feel as if you are being confronted into your mind. Now remember, your mind wants to make things easy. We don't want to do any work. If you have been doing and living in this fantasy world that you've created, then you're going to get the fight from your own mind. We don't want to do this. We don't want to go through this pain. We don't want to. But you must be honest with yourself. And facing change is not easy. It's not easy. That's why you should probably find someone who was honest with you, but because you were so defensive, that person may have left. Because a lot of times you may attract really good people, but you're not going to keep the good ones. You're only going to keep the ones that want to feed into your fantasy. So by being honest means you're not going to cover up. You're not covering up anymore. So here's the question as we conclude. Are you your own best friend, or your own worst enemy? Let's turn this around right now by you stating, I am now my own best friend. Now, you may not believe it right now, but that's one thing that you want to show yourself by stating it. By stating that I love you and now I am my own best friend. Because for the most part, people that you thought were your best friends, they turned out to not be the best friends because they were reflecting who you are, meaning you can't be a best friend because you're not even your own best friend. So on the next show, which will be tomorrow, here's some of the things that we're going to continue on. It's number one, learning a strong belief in yourself. You have to rethink your mind. Number two, developing a thick skin so you're not defensive. Number three, not being popular matters. I'm sorry, not being popular doesn't matter. I reworded that a little bit wrong there. Not being popular, it doesn't matter. It has nothing to do. That is a fantasy world, okay? You're also going to learn how to apologize yourself, which you're probably going to have to do over and over and over and over again till you get yourself back. And also building this new base, a new base, so that you have a different foundation because you've been shaky. We got to put some extra. We have to put some extra nails down in there. We're going to have to go down deeper and dig a deeper foundation because you're going to be a new building. And what's the name of that building? To be a successful you. By understanding the wisdom of living from the love of Mother Sophia. Wisdom is what we want. So we will continue this tomorrow. I hope you enjoyed our show tonight, and please come back tomorrow. And if you do like, please subscribe to my channel, and I will have another video, some of my other videos that I have up now. Thank you so much, and we'll see you tomorrow.